Yo, today we're talking about the difference between creating UGC content for a platform and creating UGC content for brands. Let's dive in. This is the third part of this series where we're diving into everything to do with user-generated content. We started off with diving into your top questions about UGC content and how you can use UGC content to make money from content creation without an audience. Second part was giving you your 5-day plan for how you can go from absolutely no experience, complete beginner in UGC to making money. And this is the third part where we're going to dive into the differences between creating content for brands and creating content for platforms. So what do I mean by platforms? Well, there are various UGC platforms out there. The one that I'm most familiar with and use quite a lot is called useclip.com, but there are various others as well. Now, these platforms are effectively the middleman. They go out and they source clients who want UGC content made, and creators sign up to the platform. And then as the creator, you can apply to be part of the campaigns that interest you and that you want to create content for. Whereas when I say working for brands, I mean working for one specific brand, creating content for them about their product. There is no middleman, you find it and seek it out yourself. So the pros of a platform is that you can send out as many applications to be on a campaign as you want. You could apply for every single campaign on that platform if you want to, or you can just pick and choose the ones that you'd specifically like to do. Reaching out to brands is as simple as clicking apply. Sometimes you can upload a little brief of why you think you'd be good for that specific campaign, what ideas you bring to the table, stuff like that. But if you want to, you can just hit apply, done deal. So reaching out to the brands is super simple because your portfolio is already on the site as well. When you sign up to the platform, you can upload your previous UGC portfolio and you can, I can't reach, hello Archie. And each time you complete a piece of content on the platform, that automatically goes into your portfolio as well. So with literally one click of a button of clicking apply, you're reaching out for the campaign and they've already got your portfolio there. Now, I think platforms are a great way to get started and get some experience working with briefs and working with brands. If you've never worked for a brand before, this is a really good way because it gives you a brief exactly what they want, and it's sort of a lower risk because you're doing it through a platform, you're not jeopardizing your reputation so much as that you've not directly reached out to them, put it forward, and if you deliver a not so great product and then you come back and they want revisions, there's less pressure on you. Obviously, you want to deliver the absolute best you can, but you've not gone through the whole thing of pitching yourself to this brand and promising to deliver something and then not delivering it. It's a lower risk, lower pressure way to build your portfolio while still working for brands. So I do think platforms are a great way to portfolio build and to get the experience working with briefs, working with UGC and working with different brands, wanting various different results. But there are a few cons when it comes to platforms. The platform is the middleman, so they will be taking a cut of whatever the brand was willing to pay. Say the brand was willing to pay $150 for a piece of UGC. On the platform, they might advertise it that you're only going to get $100 for it. They're going to take their cut. I don't know the exact figures or percentages, and that will vary from platform to platform, but be aware that that is a thing. But obviously, they are sourcing the clientele, they are sourcing the campaigns. You haven't got to do any of the behind the scenes work, you've just got to apply for the campaigns. So their cut is fairly reasonable. From my experience, a lot of the brands on these platforms are not the higher end clientele, so the payouts are lower. In some cases, it can be significantly lower than what you would be charging an actual brand. Also on the platforms, I found that a faster turnaround is expected. When I've worked with brands in the past, we'll set an expectation for when the content will be delivered, and it's normally a bit longer than on the platforms. For example, one of the platforms I use, it's a 3-day turnaround is expected from being sent the product. If it's a digital product, it's from the moment you get accepted for it to delivering the content. It's a 3-day turnaround. One way to look at this is the cheap, good and fast triangle. So say imagine a triangle, cheap, good and fast on each of the corners. You can only have 2 of them and you've got to sacrifice one. In the case of the platforms, they want it cheap and they want it fast. So they know it's probably not going to be amazing top tier quality. If they want it good and they want it fast, it's not going to be cheap. If they want it good and they want it cheap, it's not going to be fast. Now, I'm not in any way saying you should deliver subpar results to the platforms that you're working with. I would just take that into account, and I do take that into account when I'm creating content for them. When working with brands, I will go above and beyond to make the absolute best piece of content I can. I'll spend a lot more time scripting and ideation. I'll spend a lot more time filming. I'll spend a lot more time editing. When I'm doing work for these platforms, I know the payouts are a lot smaller and the turnaround needs to be a lot quicker. So all the process is sped up a bit, delivering in a not as great result as if I'd spent longer in each stage. As I say though, that is expected. They're expecting fast turnarounds and they want you to do it cheap. So it's an expected thing. And another con of platforms is it's incredibly unlikely for you to get recurring work with any of these brands. You're in contact with this brand through the middleman of the platform, so it's unlikely you're going to get recurring work. And you're not allowed to, or not meant to. I haven't done this myself. I'm sure there are people out there that do it. You're not meant to reach out to the brands separately from the platform and try and negotiate and, do extra work for them on the side. That's a big no-no, and that can actually get you banned from platforms if you're caught doing that. So it is incredibly unlikely to get any recurring work. That being said, in my experience on the platforms, they are constantly bringing in new clientele, so there's constantly work to be done. So although you're not going to be getting recurring work with one brand or product, there's plenty of work available on the platforms. Now let's dive into specific brands. First things first, you are going to get a bigger payout with specific brands. You can negotiate your rates with the brands, but overall you're going to be charging a bit more, which means you're going to deliver a better piece of content. If they want it good and they want it fast, then obviously that negates the cheap aspect of the triangle. Also, you can work with the brand to come up with a recurring deal. So you could say, hey, I'll give you this much of a discount for X amount of pieces of content delivered every single month. This gives you consistent recurring work at a higher price than on the platforms and for a product that you know and you probably love. If you're willing to create consistent content for a brand, you probably love the brand. You also get to build more of a relationship with brands, which means you can expand that in the future into bigger projects. My rule of thumb, and what I think you should adopt as well, if you're going to work with brands, you should strive to deliver an absolute banger of a piece every single time. You want to continue that relationship, you want your reputation to be good, and ultimately you want to make some more money. So you want to make sure you're delivering something that's of value every single time. Now, probably the biggest con of work with brands is there's a lot more behind the scenes work for you. You're not logging into a platform and clicking apply. You're seeking out brands that you'd like to work with. You're doing research into them, and then you're pitching yourself to them. You've got to try and get them on a call or in an email chain and try and pitch yourself across and why they should work with you. For the most part, you've then got to come up with the ideation, scripting, and everything like that. Whereas on the platform, they'll often give you the brief. Some brands will work with you and help you create a brief depending on what their specific goals are for the campaign, but it's more likely that you're going to put in some work here to get the brief and the scripting done. And ultimately, you want to deliver an absolute banger product, so you want to spend longer in the ideation, you want to spend longer in the scripting, you want to spend longer filming, and you want to spend longer editing. The whole process takes longer, which is also a factor as to why you're charging more, but there's a lot more work to go into working with brands than there is with working with brands on the platform. Hello. If I'm completely honest, I'd rather work with brands. Payouts are better, and I also only work with brands that I generally love the product or the brand. So ultimately, that's my goal client. But as I say, platforms are a great way to build your portfolio and get some experience with brands. And even though I work with brands quite regularly now, I still work with the platforms as well. So if I were you, I'd be trying to get a healthy mix. If you're just started out in UGC, sign up to some platforms, get your portfolio built using those platforms and start building that up. And then also start reaching out to brands and try and get some brands on the side as well. I think that's the best way to start off. And as you progress in your UGC career, you can start to tilt those scales. So you're starting to work with more brands than you are platforms. And eventually, if you want to, you completely cut out the platforms and just work with specific brands that you know and love. Long term, that is probably the goal. Ultimately, you want to make the most amount of money you can for your time investment. So you're going to go for the bigger fish. So that's the difference between working with brands and working with platforms when you're creating user-generated content. Any other questions, anything else you want to know about user-generated content, drop a comment down below. This series is continuing. Don't forget to leave a like to push us out to other people also looking to start their UGC journey. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.